What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. What a crazy night it was. Thanks for joining the live stream. I'm Evil Eddie, of course, from Pure Evil MMA, MyMMAnews.com. What an amazing night. I mean, it really started off pretty slow, and I got a little worried as we were getting towards the main card. Then to kick it off, two girls out of nowhere get the second finish of the night. Thanks for joining the live stream. I see that Ann's checking in. Hi, Eddie, you're a rock. Thanks for tuning in. And shout out to the Pure Evil MMA army out there. I'm going to be announcing our UFC Pick'em winners in just a second. I can't even wait to see who came out on top with their picks tonight. Thank you guys so much. What did you think about the fights? I'm going to be asking you, to rate the today's card out of 5 stars. So make sure you comment down below. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson making history, going down in the history books, making it look easy once again. I was getting a little worried, thinking that it might go to decision. People would be like, oh, well, you know, I don't really expect much out of it. Borg is an amazing grappler. I mentioned it earlier this week on Evil Intoxicated with Ted Check. And that's exactly what it was. It was just a grappling match, pretty much. You might as well have been tuning into Eddie Bravo Invitational. But you know what? Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, he has such an amazing level of gravity. I mean, the entire time it just seems like he's rolling around on a ball. And just absolutely never seen any champions really as dominating as him besides Anderson Silva, who he bypasses tonight, sealing his way into the MMA and the UFC history books with his 11th title defense, bypassing Anderson Silva with the record of 10. So big shout out to Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. He wants us to call him Mighty. That's what Mighty Mouse is tuning into now. He's changing into not Mighty Mouse, just Mighty. All right, so Fabricio Werdum, it was announced earlier in the night. I was one of the first people to report it on Twitter, brought to you by MyMMAnews.com. Fabricio Werdum versus Derek Lewis was cut off. Now, this was a big fight I was looking forward to. Getting into it, Derek Lewis going down into Texas, helping a bunch of people out from the hurricane. I mean, coming off of it, he was saying that he was going to retire after his last fight that he had against Mark Hunt. I was getting a little worried about it as we were getting closer to it because he was talking about how bad his back was bothering him in that fight that he had with Mark Hunt. And it led to his demise here tonight at UFC 216, just hours before the main event went down. It was found out earlier this afternoon, actually, that he probably wasn't going to be fighting tonight. And it was announced as we got into our first or second fight of the UFC 216 fight card on the prelims that Derek Lewis versus Fabricio Werdum was scrapped. Well, we were really upset about this, but lo and behold, Walt Harris steps up, who was supposed to fight Godbear. He steps up to fight Fabricio Werdum. It went down. Wasn't too exciting. It really wasn't. I mean, he was taking the fight on short notice. I give him a huge shout out. I shout out Walt for stepping up to this fight. But Fabricio Werdum really just showing he's on a whole different level. I really wanted to see Derek Lewis, what he was going to be able to do. We all wanted to see if Werdum was going to come out with that flying kick like he did with... he's done it in a couple of his past fights, but most recently he did it in the Travis Brown fight. So Godbear came out earlier tonight, but as the fight card was going on, let me pull up exactly what he said here because I think you guys should hear it. He couldn't fight tonight. His opponent, Walt Harris, they were supposed to be like the third or fourth fight on tonight's card on UFC Fight Pass, and there were questions on Twitter, is he going to get paid? Yes, he is going to get paid. Any fighter that weighs in, as long as they weigh in on the weigh-in day, which was yesterday or 2 days ago now as we enter Sunday, but as long as you weigh in, you make weight, you get your paycheck. I mean, you're not going to get the win bonus, you're not going to get the fight of the night bonus, which is unfortunate. I mean, it could have been one of the best fights of the night. It was a pretty slow night starting off. I mean, best fight of the night getting into before the main card was Lando, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But let me get into what Mark had to say because he wasn't able to fight. So in quotes, this was a couple hours ago before the main card started. So this is Mark Godbeer. Let's get one thing clear. I don't blame the UFC. They had their backs against the wall and had to make a decision. Also, if I was in Walt's shoes, I would have done the same. I wish him luck as he has the balls to step in against one of the best on a few hours' notice. I'm gutted, yes, but it is what it is. I will fight soon. ... Always wanted to go to New York. Wink, wink, wink. The MSG card's coming up. I mean, he can be in standby for that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what unravels. Mark Abera, veteran of the UFC, but big shout out to Walt Harris for stepping up. What is next for Fabricio Verdum? Will he step up and fight the winner of Alistair Overeem for Francis Ngannou? I mean, could happen. Stipe is still on ice with his negotiations with the UFC. So we'll see what unravels as the weeks go on here. Maybe we'll find something out in the post-fight press conference. Maybe Dana will announce something, because it was just so strange what happened tonight. A lot of people were upset. You know, on top of UFC happening in Vegas, it was so soon after these awful shootings. And let me just say, hats off to everybody that was affected. It was up in the air if the UFC was even going to have the event this weekend, and I'm very happy that they did. I'm not saying that it was getting our minds off of things, ignoring what's going on around us, but it is nice to look forward to something and in the moment, you know, smile and be at the edge of your seat. So hats off to the UFC. They did a great job before the main card, stepping into the pay-per-view, singing the national anthem or whatnot. Some people are throwing shade out, but at the end of the day, and I hate people that say end of the day. Max Holloway says it all the time, even on the MMA beat when I hear I don't want to show any shade at Danny, but at the end of the day, stop saying at the end of the day. At the end of the day, Max Holloway. That's what we're calling Max Holloway from here on out. But you know what? It was very important that the UFC addressed it tonight, and I think they did a great job being solid to it and making the point of you can't run from... don't let fear disguise your life. If you live your life in fear, it's just not the way to live. Live and embrace the moment in front of you. So tonight, there weren't many finishes, and I was getting nervous. There were actually 2 draws that went down tonight, and the first draw of the night was my pick for Fight of the Night. I hope these guys both get $50,000 each for Fight of the Night performances. Lando Vannata versus Bobby Green. It was up in the air if Bobby Green was even going to be coming back to the UFC if he did not win tonight's fight against Lando. And Lando even had his back up against the wall. He was coming off a fight 2 fights ago where he had a phenomenal highlight reel knockout, one of the best knockouts of the entire year, and a protege of Cub Swanson. I mean, all eyes were on Lando. He had that amazing debut against Tony Ferguson, rocked Tony Ferguson a couple times in the fight, ultimately ending up losing to Tony Ferguson by submission, which we saw tonight against Kevin Lee. I can't wait to break into that. Still can't even believe that happened. And huge shout out to Kevin Lee for his performance tonight. He definitely proved himself that he can hang. First round for Lee. We'll get into that in just a second here. But Lando Vannata, man, had his back up against the wall. Bobby Green had his back up against the wall. And these guys were going at it back and forth. This fight was... First round was a little scary. I mean, it really was. I'm always against draws. Like, I never understand how a judge sees it for draws. But for both the draws tonight, for the most part, at least the Lando fight, it made the most sense. Both guys almost finished one another multiple times in this fight. They were just giving it their all. They knew that it was all or nothing here. I mean, you don't want to be on a 4-fight losing streak. You don't want to be after an amazing knockout like Lando Vannata. You don't want to lose 2 in a row after that. It just doesn't look good. No one can really afford that in the end. And when you have a big chance like this where you're on a pay-per-view card, it's really time to shine. And both guys did exactly that tonight. Shout out to Lando Vannata and Bobby Green. So what's next for both those guys? I mean, honestly, David Timur is really what I want to know. I mean, his performance, and he's going to be fighting very soon. But David Timur, what he did to Lando after that performance, and Bobby Green having some trouble in there with Dustin the Diamond. I mean, that whole division is just absolutely... We have a lot to look forward to as we get to the end of this year between UFC 217 coming forward, UFC 218, and we just had the face-offs for UFC 217, and I can't be any more excited about this. GSP versus Michael Bisping. I can't wait to break into that. So for any of our new viewers that are tuning in here on the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or if you're watching it live right now on YouTube or watching the replay, make sure you guys subscribe on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, because we're going to be getting into UFC 217 in just a little bit here. I mean, Michael Bisping has a chance to really become one of the best of all time. I mean, and it might sound crazy that I'm saying that. Some of you guys might have even shut off this live stream for me saying that. But just look at what he's done in his career. I mean, coming off the Ultimate Fighter, even coaching a season Ultimate Fighter, there are a lot of people saying, you know what, it's getting towards the end for Michael Bisping. He's on the back nine of his career here. You know, what do we really see him become a champion? And then he gets a matchup against Anderson Silva. He was almost finished in that fight, and I really think that Herb Dean made a mistake. I think that fight was definitely finished by Anderson Silva. It was a huge adrenaline jump on his end. But Michael Bisping was able to come back in the later rounds and piece it together, really show up his stand-up striking skills. And hats off to his new coach with Jason Perillo. Cyborg working with him as well. I mean, you know, after that, beating Luke Rockhold, winning the championship. One of the biggest upsets of the year. One of the biggest upsets in MMA history, if not UFC history. UFC history, if not MMA history, I should say. And then following that, Dan Henderson, the rematch. You know, Dan Henderson had the logo of him doing the H-bomb on him, and he had a chance to rebuttal. He had a chance to rebuttal on that one, and really has a chance to make it one of the best runs in all time. So hats off to Michael Bisping. You know, I'm hating people saying that end of the day, but now I'm saying hats off all the time. So I'm going to stop saying that one. But honestly, UFC 217 is coming up, guys. So make sure to subscribe down below here on iTunes, Podbean. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you think about tonight. Let me know what you think about Michael Bisping versus GSP. What is your fight of the night prediction for UFC 216? Is Conor McGregor going to be fighting Tony Ferguson? Is he going to be fighting Nate Diaz? Let me know on Twitter. I respond to everybody. I love everybody that engages on Twitter. So make sure you follow me at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. I'm going to be announcing our UFC Pick'em winners in just a second here. But let's get into our main event. Tony Ferguson going into this fight really just had his head up in the air. I mean, I don't want to say he was overlooking Kevin Lee, but he has been at the top of this division for such a long time. He felt like he was entitled for this interim belt, if not the actual belt that Conor McGregor is holding currently. So going into this fight, Kevin Lee fought like 4 times this year. You know, he's been very active, and he looked phenomenal tonight going into the first round. I even scored the first round for Kevin. He had a takedown early on in that fight. He was slamming Tony Ferguson. And even in the end of the first round, it ended very, very in favor of Kevin Lee, where he was just on top. Could have finished the fight if there was another minute or so left there. Tony Ferguson going into the second round, tried to keep his distance a little more, landing some elbows, was able to, you know, do his little Sugar Ray jabs. That was working to his advantage, but really, Kevin Lee looked like he had more of the reach advantage, more of the timing down. He wasn't really allowing Tony Ferguson to play into his game. But as the end of the second round was going down, Kevin Lee started having a little moments. He was having his moments there. So that was a pretty close round. I gave it to Tony. As we got into that third round, though, Tony Ferguson was able to really buckle down. He did get taken down. He almost got a submission armbar attempt, and Kevin Lee, man, was able to squirm out of that. And we've seen this before in his past fights. I mean, we've seen some amazing breakdowns like Dan Hardy gave to us earlier in the week, where he was showing us, even shout out to Kobe's Corner. They were really breaking down some of the past fights for Kevin Lee, breaking it down in slow motion, how good he is at escaping you know, grappling situations, and really just pushing forward his game plan and just bullying you and getting on top, working his way somehow, and he gets on top of you and just dominates. And he was doing that to Tony Ferguson, but Tony was able to take advantage of just the smallest openings in Kevin Lee and was able to get a triangle attempt, just wrapped up Kevin Lee. Good shout out to Herb Dean for catching this. Kevin Lee taps, and we have a new champion in the lightweight division, and his name is Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. Hats off. That's the last time you're ever going to hear me say it. Hats off to Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. Amazing fights tonight. And like I said at the beginning of the live stream, I was getting nervous as we were getting into the main card. Shout out to the girls who really are not very well known in the MMA community. They made a great debut tonight. Pearl Gonzalez, unfortunately, wasn't able to get a win. Now she's on a 2-fight losing streak ever since her loss to Cincy Calvillo, where I still think Pearl Gonzalez won that fight. If you guys remember, when the weigh-ins were going down, it was kind of controversial that Pearl had implants, and there was all this drama for it. You know what? None of that really matters. Cynthia put on a great fight, and she deserved the win over Pearl. And tonight, Pearl got outclassed. I mean, her opponent did an amazing job. But if we have to rate tonight's card, and I'm really thinking hard about this, guys, out of 5 stars, you know, there was a championship on the line. We saw history in the making. We have a huge interim belt that was won by Tony Ferguson, which throws it up in the air about Conor McGregor. What's next for him? If it's Nate Diaz, if it's Tony's Ferguson. Really, if Kevin Lee won tonight, I think Conor McGregor would probably take that fight, because let's be real, that would probably be the easier fight for Conor McGregor. But after tonight, I mean, I think Conor might have a chance against Tony Ferguson. At least I'm more convinced now than I was before this fight. Kevin Lee really showed a lot of openings. But you know what? Conor McGregor isn't a wrestler. I mean, Kevin Lee really is a great wrestler. Conor is great at escaping a lot of the grappling exchanges. I mean, Chad Mendes, I mean, the guy's only 5'4", and he was able to muscle Conor around, and that was one of the best fights that we've really seen Conor in. So, I mean, if Kevin Lee, that would have been a great fight. If we saw Kevin Lee win tonight over Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor versus Kevin Lee, that would have been a great fight, but I just do not see Conor McGregor fighting Tony Ferguson. I don't even know if I see him fighting Nate before the year's over. I don't know what Conor's going to do at this point. This is a discussion to be had on the Pure Evil MMA podcast that we'll have probably Monday or Tuesday. We'll definitely talk about an Evil Intoxicated with Ted Check, but damn, guys, there are a lot of questions leading into this last stretch of 2017 here. I'm really enjoying the second half of 2017 more than I did the first half. You know, there were a lot of great fights the first half of this year, but it's just a little slow. I mean, for those big names, those big fights, I mean, calling back, name 5 fights right off the top that really come to mind that have went down so far this year, besides, you know, Max Holloway versus Jose Aldo, BJ Penn, Yair Rodriguez, Yair in the spotlight, but then Frankie getting the better part of him, which reminds me, Frankie Edgar versus Max Holloway is going to be going down at UFC, I think, 218. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's UFC 218 that's going to be going down. That is a great fight. So I'm looking forward to that. But not many, you know, for knockout of the year, Gokhan Saki. I mean, in his second fight in MMA, in his MMA pro career here. One of the best knockouts of the year. So it's just a slow year. Second half I'm looking forward to, and it's already a great start to the second semester here. So let me know what you guys think about tonight's card. Out of 5 stars, what do you rate it? I'm going to give it a... you know, I don't really like giving it a 3.5, but I feel like it fits right there. Between 3 and a 4. Maybe a little closer to 4. 3.75. I'll give it a 3.5, 3.75 out of 5 stars tonight. You know, we did see history made with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, but really, I want to see Mighty Mouse fight somebody on his level. Maybe a rematch with Dominic Cruz back at bantamweight. I think Mighty Mouse should move up. Will TJ move down? We'll have to see. After Cody Nola versus TJ Dillashaw goes down at a UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden. So, a lot of questions that are going to be answered in just a couple of months here. So, looking forward to it, guys. I'm Evil Eddie of Pure Evil MMA, MyMMAnews.com. Let me know what you think about tonight's fights. Subscribe down below here on YouTube. Subscribe on iTunes. Go check out MyMMAnews.com for all the latest and greatest MMA news. I'm Evil Eddie. Behave yourself, guys.